Yeah. Hello, everyone. Um, well, welcome to tonight's Team Huddle, y'all. We have some kind of like an informal get together, basically. So I just wanted to talk about something real quick, like a perspective shift. That I just thought was really interesting. So I have our leaders. We meet 30 minutes before this call every Sunday, and we started reading this book with a new year called Atomic Habits, and I highly recommend if you're looking for a book. It's so timely, like right now, to be. Hang on, let me mute. It's so timely right now to be reading that book, just because the title, Atomic Habits, and what better time to make great new habits is the beginning of the year. But it's really like an awesome perspective shift. And I just thought, especially as we had people going for that district in 1 month and the area manager in 1 month, just something to kind of like keep in mind. And then just really like as you just like throughout your whole business. So the one thing that I really just really resonated with me, and again, like this is just a thought to kind of be pondering on all week long, but they talk about like basically how your goal shouldn't be the goal, it should be the system. And so I want to explain like what that means. Like basically that means like if you're launching, for instance, and you are trying to do that district, in 1 month, the 3,500 this month that they're offering, that your goal should not just be the 3,500, like that shouldn't be just like you're so focused on 3,500, 3,500, 3,500, but like how like your goal should be directed by the system that you follow, which if you're launching should be your 100-person list, like getting that done in 48 hours, doing your reach outs to your top 10, like get it, like, so it should, does that make sense to everyone? Like it should be like about following the system. Now, if you're past the launching phase and you're just, working your business, and let's say you're going for the 15,000, like the area manager, or you're going for region, or you're going for nation, that basically like the goal should not be, area manager, like 15,000. The goal should be broken down into what are the daily habits that you're doing to get there, which, like a tried and true, like, I mean, again, we all get in front of 40 people a month, but it's like, what are you doing to get there? And that would be like 5 reach outs a day or 10 reach outs a day if like you have like a really big goal, and I wanted to like read 2 parts of the book just because I thought that this was something that was really interesting, just because it's kind of like puts you in the mindset of, like, well, if you want to be a national vice president, act like a national vice president, like who are you being so you can get what you're wanting, and like that could literally be in like your daily life of, I don't feel like making phone calls. Well, what would a national vice president do? They'd make phone calls. Like, I don't feel like reaching out. Well, what would a national vice president do? They would reach out regardless, and just being that person. And so there's 2 like kind of thought concepts that I really want to just share with y'all. But basically is one about like how like these little progresses in your business, because like I know that sometimes like you're like, we go for goals and like we maybe fall short, but what you don't realize is that like you're still making so much progress because like you're creating so much momentum. Like like I think about that in my business all the time. When I was going for a region, like I would hit like 36, and then, we'd hit 28, and then I'd hit like 38, and then I'd hit like, 32, but like it didn't mean that I was like falling backwards in my business. I was still making this progress to go forward. And I want to read like 2 passages that kind of have to do with that. Okay, so the first one has to do with that, like the seemingly insignificant things that we do every day that compound over time. Like again, I don't do anything amazing on a day-to-day basis with my business, but I just make small decisions like that push my business in the right direction. Does that make sense? Like they're just like seemingly insignificant things that I do every day. It's not a big deal, but I mean, I just do them. It's easy to do and easy not to do. So, so this is like this from this passage. It says what progress is really like. It says, imagine you have an ice cube sitting on the table in front of you. The room is cold and you can see your breath. It is currently 25 degrees. Ever so slowly, the room begins to heat up. 26 degrees, 27, 28. The ice cube is still sitting on the table in front of you. 29 degrees, 30, 31. Still, nothing has happened. Then 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. A 1 degree shift, seemingly no different from the temperature increases before it, that has unlocked the huge change. And I love that because it's like there's so many times like, we're doing our business, we're doing our business, we're doing our business. Like we have a saying that says, when it seems like nothing's happening, everything's happening, because like, and you can talk to anyone who's promoted in their business, the levels, like that's what it always seems like before a promotion. It feels like there's crickets and nothing's happening, but like that's when everything's happening. And it continues to go on. Complaining about not achieving success despite working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you heated it from 25 to 31 degrees. Your work was not wasted. It was just being stored. All the action happens at 32 degrees. So like, think about like, I mean, everything that you're doing like now, like just, I mean, is compounding to like really like add up and make a huge, like you're creating momentum. And what I see so many times in people's businesses is that they quit before payday, is that they get so frustrated because they're like, nothing's happening, no one's interested. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just hold on, because everything that we're doing is leading up to that. And I promise it's going to happen, so that's one thought. And then the other thought I wanted to talk about, because I thought that this was interesting, and this talks about like making your goal be your goal. So it says a handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not enough time designing your systems. It says every Olympian wants to win a gold medal. Every candidate wants the job. And if successful and unsuccessful people share the same goals, then the goal cannot be what differentiates the winners from the losers. I mean, think about it. Like everyone wants the same thing. I mean, how many times like, yeah, I want to be an ENVP. Well, yeah, everyone wants to be one. I mean, who wouldn't want to be one? But I mean, the thing is like, are you doing the small things every day that are going to compound over time to win? And anyway, they go on to say, hang on one second. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. And basically, like, I just think that this is so timely, is that because it's like, especially for the new people who are learning the system and following the system and plugging into the system. But here's the beauty of our business: a system is already created. I mean, like the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, how lucky, like we've got the roadmap, we've got the system laid out. Like we don't have to think about the system. It's not like, oh, I've got to design a workout plan for myself. Like it is already laid out for you, like a system for success. And like, you really just have to like, just focus on like, instead of saying, like if you're going for like that, area goal right now, and let's say like, it's the 15,000. Well, your goal should be, am I reaching out to 10 people a day? Like it should be like your daily goals of getting you to that next step. Because if you do those little goals, like the big goal is going to happen. Like it has no choice but to happen, because like that's what it takes to get there. So anyway, I just wanted everyone to like kind of like just have that perspective shift, because it was huge for me just to be like, and I mean because it really like defines like what's success and not success. Did I reach out to 10 people today? Yes. Well, there's a win, there's a success, because I trust in the system and I know that it's gonna like get my team to where we need to be. So and then I just wanted to ask any of my leaders who are reading the book, just kind of like something that kind of stood out to you regarding all that.
Abby, you want to go first? Or Jen, or
I can go. I mean, I just had something really quick from the book. That was, well, I don't want to like really give anything away if you like planning on reading the book, but I mean, it's like one of the first pages, so whatever. So he's telling this story in the beginning about how he basically got whacked in the face with a baseball bat, and like everything went downhill. Like he was in a coma for a little bit, like blah, 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 blah. So as significant as that was in his life of like a horrible event, he then later goes on, and like the book is about, you know, him becoming better of that, you know, and like making his bed every single day, even though his, you know, baseball teammates, you know, were just like out drinking in college, whatever. He was, you know, he made straight A's. He was still on the college team, but he was like the lowest level, you know, like he like just barely made that college team. You know, and again, he got literally smacked in the face with a baseball bat, and like his whole face like exploded. So, and like who's in the hospital really bad. So the point of me sharing that is, how often do we get hit in the face with a baseball bat, right? We get an awful rejection. We, you know, someone who's on our dream team rejects us. Someone, you know, tells us to run away, and like we're in a cult and like this is awful, blah, 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 right? Someone has like something so negative to say about us, and it literally feels like our face is going to explode, and they just like punch us in the face so bad and you want to give up. But it's the daily things that happen every single day that are going to lead up to the big, you know, life explosion, right? For this author, like he's made an awesome business off of personal development and leadership based on the things that he's learned and implemented daily in his life. And that's literally what this is, you guys. You know, like to be an ENVP, you're gonna get whacked in the face with a couple baseball bats. Like your face is gonna want to your head's gonna want to explode from like closed days, you know, barely making your goals, or like, you know, just hitting your goal, or, you know, I don't know, something's gonna happen, and like it does feel as bad as getting hit in the face with a baseball bat, but like it's all about the little daily consistencies that you do that add up to the big things. And the goal isn't necessarily that big thing, like Andrew was saying. It was developing that daily habit that led to that big thing, right? Because at the end of the day, like those are the things that really make you you, and that build your character, build your leadership, you know, build you in different areas of your life too. So like, you know, those awful conclusion there, but you get what I'm trying to say.
That was awesome, Yen. I got from it, so, well, I mean, we're still reading it, so there's so much more to get from it. But for me, I guess I had heard that be plus do equals have saying so long ago that it just has been ingrained in my head forever. And I know that sometimes I can get, you know, in our business, we want to keep a balance. Like we want to do, but we also want to be like with our mindset and that kind of thing. So I guess, you know, that there's this one part, it's a summary where he says, the goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. So, you know, it's about like, who do you want to be? And so just kind of stepping into that. We were laughing about this right before we were talking, but it's like, I don't know if any of you guys remember the WWJD. You might remember that when everybody was wearing like WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, you know, so it's that same thing. Whatever, you know, what would an area manager do? What would a regional vice president do? What would a national vice president do? If you ask yourself that, like Andrea said, and she's challenged me before in a good way to say, she's asked, you know, I'd say, well, I don't know if this is going to happen because blah, blah, blah. And she'd say, well, what would a national vice president do? And I would say, figure it out. And then I would go figure it out. Right. And you know what? I was so much better for that. Because
but you were mad when I said it.
I was mad when she said it. Like one time I was in Nowheresville, Texas, where my daughter lives, Medina, Texas. And I had to get on and lead the Facebook group party we were doing. And I didn't know this, but there was no Wi-Fi at her barn. I mean, none, like one little X marks the spot place where you could stand and maybe get it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she said, well, what would a national vice president do? And I was like, drive into town and steal some Wi-Fi. And that's what I did. And it worked, you know. And so, you know, but you know what? It makes you, it's true, Vera, like you start embodying the person that you want to become, you know. Well, what would a person that wants to get healthy do? They would probably choose to eat this over this, or to go exercise or whatever. So to me, I guess that's what I'm getting. It's just that reinforcement of step into who you want to be, you know. Don't, I don't know. It's a mindset piece, which is awesome and huge. So that is what I'm getting from it so far.
I'll share a quick thing before we open it up. I was actually just thinking about this as like y'all were talking. Who on here has gotten to close day and like literally worked from like 6 a.m. to like 3 a.m. on close day and hit your goal and you're so proud of yourself, but you're like, or maybe you didn't hit it and you're like, I just worked so freaking hard. If only I had done it throughout the entire month, right? Like how many times has that happened? I know for me, like countless times where I've been like, I could have literally spread that out over like 2 weeks and it would have been nothing. But instead I like made myself really stressed out and blah, blah, blah. So y'all, that is literally what this book is saying. And the biggest thing I think for me is they talk about one of the chapters, like an identity shift, and how the most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do and decide the type of person you want to be and then prove it to yourself with small wins. So like if you want to be a winner, like what would that person do? If you want to be a district manager, what would a district manager be doing? What would an area manager be doing? And so forth. And I mean, I love that, like figure it out. And I think so often we come to a problem or a situation and we dwell on the problem or we dwell on what's not working. But y'all, winner, like MVPs don't dwell on the problem. They say, how do I figure this out? How do I make it work? Like have an abundant mindset and like think of solutions. So like, are you, and that's the kind of person you want to be, right? Like you want to be a solution, like a solver, a solution solver, whatever that word is. So that's like my big takeaway so far. But yeah, I think, are we going to open it up? Andrea, I'm going to pass back to you.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do, we've been breaking up in small groups, like those going for districting, those going for area. We wanted to open it up to everyone tonight, like have everyone on and really just like go over like questions that anyone's having or just like, obstacles that you're hitting, questions that you have and that sort of thing, just because I love it like that everyone's teaching everyone. It takes a village. So yeah, I just would love to open it up. If anyone has any questions of like wins that you've had in your business, like, hard things that you've had in your business this week or this month or this year.
This is a question that a lot of people have been asking, and you can raise your hand if you're in this situation, especially after you're done with your 100-person list and you've gotten started, you're in activity and you feel like, okay, I've reached out to 100 people. I've talked to everyone in my network. I don't have anyone else to talk to. What next kind of thing? Like, how do you expand your network? How do you continue growing your network? And that's something that I think a lot of people run into at some point in their business. And maybe a couple people can hop in and like share how they continue to expand your network. And I can share ideas too.
Well, I just have to throw this in real quick, and I know Andrea is going to think the same exact thing. If that was the case, we wouldn't still be here. There are always people to talk to, always. Like people are everywhere. People are turning 18 every day. So that's one thing. One piece is the mindset piece, but I'll let somebody else answer that too.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, for those who aren't new and even if you have one PC, this applies when like one person who's bought from you, like even if it was like out of pity, like we all have these people, of course, like when you start your business, you just have your dirt list, people that like, if you're selling dirt, they'll be like, sure, I'll get it from you, like whatever. So one thing is like you have preferred clients who have massive networks. Like once someone's a preferred client, and I'm so guilty of this too, is like, I'm like, oh my God, like she already buys from me. Like and you put them out of your mind because you're like, well, she already gets from me. Like I can't really get anything for, like, what am I gonna, right? Like, or we've already talked about business, whatever. But your preferred clients are already connectors because they're loving the product. Like how can you add more value by like, if you have something that that they love, be like, hey, I can give you this for free if you'd like be open to hosting a Facebook event for me, or like doing a Zoom healthy happy hour. Like your network is literally uncapped because people who know people who know people who know people who know people till the cows come home. So saying you haven't, like, no one to reach out to is honestly, it's the lamest excuse ever.
And I think also oh yeah, who wanted to just hop in?
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to add something on that, but go ahead.
No, you hop in.
Okay, no, I just wanted to share on that because that's been happening. Not that hasn't been happening, but something awesome from that has been happening this week. I started wanting to expand my network. So on Instagram, which I'm kind of new at, so maybe you guys already know this, but I just discovered it this week. A lot of people started following me, or people that have followed me that I already know, and they know I do Arbonne. I started reading through their profiles and things that they've posted, and when their friends comment on their posts, I comment on those. And I've started having new people follow me, and then when they do, I send them a message just saying, "Hey, thanks so much for following me. I love wellness, and I like to meet like-minded people." And I had a lot of responses from that this week of starting conversations with people from other people's networks from that. So I added like 50 names to my list this week just from that. It was awesome.
Awesome.
That's so
That's so
amazing.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I mean, seriously, with the internet, like, just like you said, you have no excuse. I mean, you can literally meet people, Facebook, Instagram, like go join a Facebook group that you have something in common with, like go on Instagram, make friends. Don't like randomly spam people, but create the relationship first. But there's so many ways to meet new people. And then like I can guarantee you, because I've been doing Arbonne for 6 years and there's still people that are on my Facebook friend list that I haven't reached out to. So I know there's people that you're not reaching out to that are still like on your friend list or like warm market list. And so sometimes it can feel like we don't know a lot of people, but really think about like your parents' friends, your siblings' friends. Who's that person that you went to like lower school with, elementary school? Who did you used to play sports clubs with? Who did you go to summer camp with? Maybe you're not even like connected to them anymore, but you can find them. So, I mean, I have a lot of preferred clients and people on my team that I literally hadn't talked to in 10, 15 years. So don't be shy. Just reach out, and you want to connect with people. Like you're not asking them to marry you right away.
And
Yeah,
one
all
thing
that
too, I
stuff
want to
is like-
say, I guarantee you, if I ask each one of you for your cell phones and I scroll through your contacts, I am willing to bet you have not reached out to the majority of those people. And like, that's the funniest thing, is that like people will be like, you know, I'll say like to my new consultant, give me your cell phone. What about Ashley? What about Abby? What about, you know, and I'll start going down. And like, the thing is that, you know, a lot of times they'll be like, well, I don't know, you know, it's just that she already did something. So, you know, or she wouldn't be interested because whatever. And it's like, all we're doing is asking people to take a look. So then we can either like pick their brain, you know, like a network through them, or they can host, or they can learn about product, or, you know, like there's so many ways to go, but it's like you have to start the conversation, you know. And I mean, I'm just as guilty of that. Like, I mean, I'll go through my list. Like now that I've been doing this, I've been challenging myself for the next 90 days to reach out to 10 people a day for 90 days, Saturday and Sunday included, whatever. And like, I mean, I'll look at people and I'm like, why have I not ever reached out to that person? Because once you start doing that, like, you're like just looking for people to put down on your list. Like, you're like, I don't care. Like, I'm putting this person down so I can reach out, you know? And so like, it's so funny. Like there was this one girl actually last night I put down on my list, and I reached out to her full on thinking that she was going to be like, either ignore me or just be like, yeah, no, sorry. She was so nice. She's like, I would love to help you out. She's like, I would love to connect with you and hear what you're doing. I'm like, that is so nice, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I heard a really great training. Gosh, it must have been a couple months ago now, but she talked about how, you know, she had like sworn off social media for a little bit. She's like, it's just too distracting. But then she realized like she wasn't connecting with more people. So I am definitely an advocate for believing that social media can be like a positive thing if you allow it, you know, especially with connecting, especially with adding value to other people's lives, you know, using your platform for good. And so what I've done is like, okay, I'm going to scroll, but like, I'm not just going to scroll to scroll. Like I'm going to intentionally scroll and intentionally connect with people, and not just like a cool message or like a swipe up and like put an emoji, but like if someone posts something on Facebook, like writing something like that just looks so beautiful. Like that just made my day seeing that, or oh my goodness, that made me laugh so hard. Like a real sentence, not just like, just like a few things. And like people notice that like that stands out to them as well. And like you said before, like the birthday things, like wishing happy birthday to people, has definitely brought back a lot of like old connections recently too. So I think that there's so much more that, we just see social media, but like there isn't just, it doesn't have to be bad scrolling, but then just don't sit on it for like an hour, maybe set like a 15-minute, timer, and for 15 minutes, like go and do that. So
yeah, one more quick thing. I saw Gabby that you said, hey, any more questions, so we can switch over to something different. But when I was in BNI, I was in BNI for about 3 years. It's a business networking group. It's great. But they taught us how to do this. And so you not only did the bubble chart, if y'all know what I'm talking about with the bubble chart, like, you've got you, and then you've got all the connections, like Gabby was talking about, your high school friends, people you went to summer camp with, but like friends and family. But then you go out from there and you think about, well, who do they know? Like, do I know anybody that they know? Do I know their brother? Do I know their sister? Do I know? It's just like a brain dump, or a sort of a mindset exercise to kind of get you thinking, just to get you like the juices flowing. I know, Jennifer, I'm going to call you out. We were talking yesterday, and sometimes this will happen, and it always used to happen to me if I was at convention or at something, where I would be like, oh, it was almost like then I was focused, and so I would be like, oh, so and so. And so Jennifer and I were talking yesterday, and she's like, oh, I just thought of another person, because we were focused on that and we were thinking about that. And it was just like that whole reticular activator of the brain started like firing. So anyway, I will be quiet. So I know we're getting close to time, but if there's, we have, and maybe with Gabby and Andrea and Yen and everybody, maybe the Facebook parties is something, we can kind of do a whole call on or something, because I know people have a lot of questions.
I'd love to know like what y'all would like to know, like for training topics. Like I would like to hear from y'all, to definitely like, is there something like that you're like, oh, I would love for them to train on this, or I'd love for them to train on that. Does anyone have any, like, and you can put it in the comments, or you can say it out loud, or you can even just message us. But just because we want to make sure that we're making the most of this 30 minutes, like to really like, so you said initial ask and I story. Perfect. Those are good. All right, I'm gonna write these down too. And we can even talk about some of these too. I was thinking one time before, like it would be really good to do I stories like as a workshop, and we break out into like several different rooms, and like like come with the bones of your I story, which is on track. Just on like what your fears and hesitations were, what your turning point is and what you expected to do for your future. Like come to the table with that, and then like we can like help like craft your I story. Because honestly, like, we were actually on a call earlier today with the ENVP who told me this. She's like, if you're not attracting business builders, chances are it's your I story. You need to get your I story like in check. So, that is such a critical part of your business, and you think that it's not, but it really is like what's attracting someone to you.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
So of the people that everybody is like Andrea, Polly, Gabby, Yen, the people that y'all meet with every month, what percentage is men?
Pretty small, to be honest, but that's just
Like
me.
one. Who's so great at chatting with men?
Yeah, where's Crystal at?
And she already knows I'm gonna call her
Crystal.
because I see her. Is Crystal. Crystal, Crystal is gonna be the EMVP that has actually like a 90% male team and a 10% women's team, like flip-flopped of everyone else's. Like she is so good.
She's using Arbonne to date.
Yeah. Literally.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. Crystal, what if you marry someone on your team?
I've actually thought about that one time, and I was like, how would I feel about that?
It's not far-fetched.
Yeah. Like,
how would I feel with having two
experience?
Mercedes in the garage?
Right. But it's so funny when, as soon as you said, you know, who's really good at talking about men, I was like, let me get to the camera because I know she's going to call me out. but, but I always feel like maybe deep down, there's just a piece, like my masculine side just comes out so easily when I'm talking to men. I don't know what it is, but it's more so just treating them as regular people. I feel like we get so caught up in the fact that they're a different sex that we're like, oh my gosh, okay, how do I talk to a man? Or like they're a different gender. That is like, how do we talk to men in their kind of language? But no, just tap into what their own personal passions are, tap into, you know, what they actually desire, just their personal interests. I just connect simply off of what I see. Like there's this one guy who I've met recently, never know him, but I am a person that uses social media to my advantage. So I definitely try to communicate through there, just get to know people randomly through there. And, you know, I just connected because I was like, first of all, you live in a state I didn't know existed, but thanks. So now I'm like, okay, like, you know, enlighten me about where you live. What's the culture there? Where else are you from? Are you in school? Oh my gosh, you're into training. That's awesome. Are you doing personal training or what? Like random questions that you would just also ask any other woman. So it's just more so just tapping into what their desires are, what their passions are, just as much as you would a woman, and show that same level of energy and excitement.
Yeah. I mean, the guys that I've talked to, I do the one pager, and I don't want this to confuse anybody, but it also is just like know your audience and like know who you're talking to. So he's a preferred client, so I kind of knew him already. I did the one pager, but I basically did it backwards. Like he loves the products. He's into health and fitness, right? I'm like, look, I'm going to talk to you straight. I'm going to show you what's possible in this business. And I'm going to tell you why it's smart. Because men show me the money, right? They're like, why am I doing this job? I want to provide for my family. Why would I jump into like a woman's business, right? Like, why would I do something like, I'm like, forget the woman stuff. You already love the stuff. You like, we're good friends. You know what I do. Let me show you why, like one of the main reasons why I'm doing something like this and why it's so awesome for you, because like, look at what's possible. And they're like, oh, okay. They know, like they see the end of the tunnel and they're like, okay, now then how would I even do something like that? Or how would I get there? You know what I mean? Like women, we like that emotional stuff. We like to connect, like, oh, you can help people, right? You impact, like we all want that as women. That's just like who we are, right? Men, how am I gonna provide for my family, right? How am I gonna like show everyone that like I'm the man and like I can, you know, bring the breadwinner, whatever. Like, so it also depends on like just know your audience and know that stuff. I'm not saying that's every man, but if you know the guy and they're your PC Donna, like, you know, you have good insight. So yes. And I still did the one pager. I just did it backwards because I knew him. So
I think that's smart.
These are great questions, y'all, in the chat, by the way. Any
And
others?
I wanted to like point out, like I see a couple, I wrote all these topics down, but like a lot of that product stuff is on the source. And I mean, the source would do a much better, like, because if I was going to go train on a product, I would go to the source and just regurgitate that. So it's like, they've got like amazing. And if y'all are not familiar with where the source is, I always tell people it's like Arbonne's Google. Like you just go, like it's when you're logging in, you can go into resources and look for it that way, or just select on the source when, you know, if you're logging in and you see like all the icons there. But I mean, it's an amazing tool. And like they've got like VPs who are training on a product. And then they've got the product knowledge sheets. So like that's like that part's easy. I mean, like that's something that, you know, like when I'll talk to someone about like, hey, why don't you every night look at one product knowledge sheet, you know, or look at like read the catalog, like read it though, like, you know, like don't just like flip through it, like just to become familiar with it. But honestly, like they always talk about this, like people don't care like about like what, you know, like they want to know like what, you know, like how, like what you love about the product. Like they're going to want to, like, they want your experience with the product, you know? And so like, that's why we always say when you're talking to someone, like a lot of times when like I'm coaching some people to do Facebook parties, and we're doing the live together, and they're like, I don't know everything about this. I'm like, you don't have to. I'm like, just give one fact and one love. Like, that's it. You know, fizzes are so great because, you know, they're, you know, B vitamins, guarana, green tea. But what I love about it is it puts me in a good mood and it keeps me going, and I never have that afternoon crash. you know, like that's going to be more like appealing to someone, you know? So just, I would just like definitely like check out the source, especially if you're like wanting to know some product knowledge stuff, that's like there all like 24/7.
And also, if y'all are not subscribed, go to YouTube and subscribe to Success and Simplicity Nations on YouTube. That's like our team's YouTube channel. We upload all of our weekly trainings there. So in case you have to miss one, always be on the live, but just in case you have to miss one, you can watch the recording on there. And then we do have different playlists. So there's like a Discover Arbonne playlist. There's product training playlist. So whenever we see like cool videos that are coming out, we always add them into this playlist. So you can literally, like I think we were talking about earlier, be in the shower and like be listening to something while you're in the shower. But I just put this in the comments, like it's better to be ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice in Arbonne, meaning if you're brand new, don't feel like you have to memorize everything in the catalog. Like, and there's a lot of people that will start and be like, well, I don't know what ingredients are in XYZ, or like, I don't know the pricing and how to break it down for people. Just start, like, just dive in and start. That's what your leaders are here for, so that we can help you with those replies. And like, if someone asks you a question, then you can go research it. Or the best thing that you can do is be like, I'm still new, let me go find the answer for you and I'll go back to you. But like, at least you've done the first, you know, the one page or whatever it is. So don't feel like you have to wait to start just to like know things about products and stuff like that. And I know that it's after 9, so if you need to get off, no biggie, but we can hang out and stay on too, if anybody has more questions.
Yeah, definitely keep sending us. I mean, it's awesome to like know like what y'all are like wanting. Um, and even just like the product stuff, like maybe even having like organizing it all so like where it's in one easy place to find or something like that. I mean, it's just good to know what everyone feels like they need.
Ian just said she needs an Arbonne husband.
I didn't say Arbonne husband. I just said a husband. And I could
To
do a
help you
Lawrence
promote
doing- I could do a Lawrence doing and just give him a fist every day to give to someone. Yeah, I'll turn him into an Arbonne husband. That's my requirement.
So I guess I have another question. So recently I have reached out to somebody and asked them for a Facebook party. They are using the product, and asked them for a Facebook party, and they have been in network marketing before. I don't think they were in it very long, but what they said to me is that they have sent so many messages to people, not only for themselves, but for other people, that they wanted to get a feel first. So I wasn't even able to, send them that first message before they, kind of had that judgment that it wasn't going to be successful. Do you have any advice for that?
I'm kind of confused. So like because I think I might have had the same thing happen to me yesterday. Like, are you saying that they're like kind of jumping to the conclusion ahead of time, like saying like, I've done this before, like that sort of thing, and they don't even want to hear it?
Yeah, they're not willing to host a Facebook party for me, even though they like the product. They've been using product, skincare, and they like it, but they're not willing to host a Facebook because they've done network marketing before themselves and reached out. And also people have asked them to host before. And so they think that their friends are tired of hearing from them.
So, I mean, I would just basically like I would try and handle that not through text, like be like, well, listen, why don't we hop on a call and like just chat about it? Like, let's figure this out, because it's like, I mean, it's like, I mean, that's what one of the most important things that we do is host coaching, to make sure that I mean, I don't want to be wasting my time either. Like, so I don't want the host to waste their time, but I mean, I don't want to waste my time either. So I want to make sure that it's going to be successful, for them and for me. So, I mean, I think like if you can take that, I mean, are you having like a lot of responses like that? Or is it just like a couple?
No, but I've had a couple.
So, I mean, the answer to most of these questions are just reach out to more people. because you are going to get some negative ninnies, like saying something like that. And you're just like, next, like, because you don't want to like waste your time or energy on that. But unless like, or if there's someone who, they really, like they think that, but you think that they could be, like get a good crowd. Like sometimes it's like thinking, I always like to say, like, I try and like think for my hostesses. So like, I'll be like thinking for them, like, well, what about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? Like I'll name some of their friends that I know and just be like, what about your group from that book club you were in years ago? Like, or what about like some of the people from your church, or just what about your work? And do it at lunchtime, since y'all have been working socially distanced. Wouldn't it be fun to have like, healthy happy hour over lunch, and y'all could like have your lunch at the same time. I try and think outside the box for my hostess.
And what was it was something that we were on the other day. Oh, it was the VP to be call, which everyone needs to earn it this month because it was so good. Like goosebumps. It was insane. Anyway, but one of the VPs that was on was sharing that in their Facebook parties, they really work hard to like give as much value as possible. So maybe if you know that person like supports a nonprofit or is like really passionate about something, you can like craft it around that. So Tori's not on right now, but Tori has like a cheese board business, and so she's doing like a virtual vegan 30-day approved cheese board while like making it on camera while she's talking about like the 30-day and Arbonne stuff. So like maybe you can tweak it a little bit so that it would be cool for the host in like a different way and be like, hey, I know you're really passionate about blah, blah, blah. Like we can weave that in, somehow and make it like creative and fun and different. And that way it's not, if they feel like they've already seen like a ton of Facebook parties, and that's like a really cool option.
Also, so I was talking to someone, he was my old manager at a fitness studio I worked at in New York. And I reached out and I was like, hey, like, really big favor to ask you, like, doing this challenge 30 and 30 with my team, would you be willing to host a virtual event for me, or would you be willing to just get on a meeting, like on a one cheater call? Like that was like the first thing I asked. And his response was along the lines of, oh honey, like I know all about Arbonne, like I've heard all the spiels, I actually have hosted a party before. How about you mark me down as if I was one of your 30, but we don't actually have a meeting and I just buy a couple things from your website. And I was like, no, like super chill. Like back in my head was like, okay, that's fine. You could order stuff, but no, like clearly that's not adding value. That like, it's not the point at all. So I was like, that's so funny. Like, how do you know about Arbonne? Like, when did you host? Like whatever. And cause he's like, oh, I know everything. And he goes, 2015. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Hunter, like so much has changed in Arbonne since 2015. Like, my first thing could have been, oh, he said he knows all about it. He said he would host and he said he'd buy something, like easy, this conversation is done. But no, it's like, okay, when did he host? If it was last month, then the conversation's a little different. But 6 years ago, I'm like, no, Hunter, so much has changed. Like I promise you will learn something new in Arbonne. And if you don't, and if you're like, I knew every single thing, like I will send you a full-size free product because you'll like, say you know it all. But there's no way, like you haven't heard about it in the last 6 years. And I was like, how about this? Like, let's get on a meeting and no pressure to get any product. But after we talk about stuff and you learn and you're then interested in getting some stuff, well, then we can talk about it then. But I would just love, to share my own story because you haven't heard like what I've been up to, especially the last 10 months since leaving the studio in New York. So it just was so funny. And I know Polly had mentioned that before about how, oh yeah, I've heard of Arbonne. My second cousin's next door neighbor did it. I know all about it. And all they know is like a fizz, like that's all they've ever heard, so just bringing back the conversation of like everyone says, like just keep asking questions, like you never know. And even if they did hear a presentation yesterday from someone else, they've never heard your story. And in that VP2B training, one of the RVPs that was training, her twin sister does Arbonne, and she was saying how like, sometimes just by having their friend get on a call with her sister, like they're like, oh, okay, like now they do it. And even though their sister isn't so similar, but you attract the people you're supposed to have on your team. You attract the people you're supposed to have as your preferred clients. Like it will always be the right people. So your story and just who you are could be the reason why they say yes, or someone else ends up being the reason why, even though they already heard yours, So just always keep the conversation going and make it fun too. Like make it funny. Like my response to him, right? Because like this is fun what we get to do. It doesn't have to always be so robotic and so just like perfect messages and everything. Like we're real humans, and like how do you talk in real life? Like I would have started laughing. So I sent like 40 emojis, you know what I mean?
That's
awesome.
hilarious. That's awesome.
I recorded this because I know some people had to get off early. So the recording will be up tonight and we'll post it on Facebook. And then if you have any other questions, just like send them to Andrea or whoever your upline is, and we'll make sure to cover that in a future training.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thanks y'all for hopping
Thanks,
on.
y'all.
You'll have a good rest of the night.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.